were killed by an explosion at a hospital in Gaza City today that Palestinian authorities said was caused by an Israeli airstrike. The Israeli military, however, said in a statement that a misfired Palestinian militant rocket caused the explosion and that a rocket barrage from Gaza was near the hospital when the building was struck. Islamic Jihad, an Islamic group aligned with Hamas in Gaza, was responsible, according to the Israeli military. The fighting between Israel and Hamas has raised fears that the violence will spill into Lebanon as a wider conflict with Hezbollah. Given the strength of Hezbollah forces, that would pose a real danger for Israel. Such a war poses great risk to everyone involved. Israel, which appears poised to launch a ground invasion in Gaza, could struggle to fight on two fronts and defend itself against Hezbollah's skilled guerrillas. Hamas is believed to hold at least 199 people hostage, guarded by gunmen and booby traps, likely scattered and hidden from any would-be rescuers as Israel readies a ground invasion. Israeli and U.S. commandos have pulled off extraordinary hostage rescues before, but the chaotic environment of Gaza, which is descending into a humanitarian crisis, and the base where Hamas launched devastating attacks on Israel this month, has made such a mission unlikely because of the dangers to hostages and soldiers alike. Well, Jim Jordan lost his first vote to become Speaker of the House. Mr. Jordan, the combative co-founder of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus and a close ally of Donald Trump, fell 17 votes short of the majority he would have needed to prevail, despite a right-wing pressure campaign to win the support of mainstream Republicans who opposed him. A second vote for Jordan was scheduled for later this afternoon. That vote was postponed, and now there's a vote scheduled for tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. But still, no confidence by the Republican Party that Jim Jordan will have the magic number of 217 votes needed to become the next Speaker of the House. Voters overturned the Jim Crow era law in 2020 in Mississippi. This summer, a court threw out another law, also from 1890, that had permanently stripped voting rights from people convicted of a range of felonies in the state. Now, Mississippi is holding its first election for a governor since these oppressive voting rights laws have failed. Black leaders and civil rights groups in Mississippi see this election as a chance for a more level playing field and an opportunity for Black voters to exercise their political sway. 40% of voters in the state of Mississippi are Black. This is a greater share than any other state. Ford Motors Executive Chair Bill Ford yesterday warned that an ongoing strike by the United Auto Workers threatens the future livelihood of the company as well as the American automotive industry. Ford, who has been a part of UAW negotiations since 1982, pled with union members and leaders to work with the company instead of against it to reach what he called a tentative deal to end this acrimonious round of talks. And prosecutors will convene a grand jury to consider whether to refile an involuntary manslaughter charge against Alec Baldwin in the fatal shooting of a cinematographer who was killed on the set of the film Rust in 2021. New Mexico prosecutors said that they believe that based on their lengthy and detailed investigation, it is appropriate for a grand jury in New Mexico to make a decision on whether the case should proceed. You are watching and listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I am joined by Dr. Larry Walker. He's a professor at the University of Central Florida, and joining us by phone is Amanda Edwards. She is an attorney and candidate for Texas, the Texas 18th Congressional District. And in hour two, you know what we do. We go deep and we dig behind the headlines and we bring you those stories that have big impact, the stories that people are talking about. And today, that story is the doxing of students by colleges because these students have spoken out about the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. Harvard University, amongst other elite universities, have been in the news over the last couple of days. And Harvard, long a place of political and philosophical debate, Harvard, like so many other universities, are now at the center of a controversial debate over the war in Israel and the bombing of Gaza. Harvard students have told news outlets that their campus is divided and people are scared in the aftermath of the breakout of the Israel-Hamas war. Student groups supporting Palestine issued a statement on the conflict, saying that the Israeli regime is entirely responsible for the unfolding violence. And those students faced immediate blowback. So much so that there is now a van that's been driving around the campus, and those students that did sign a pro-Palestinian letter, their names and pictures of them are being displayed on a big billboard that this van is driving around the campus. I'm going to talk to, in hour two, a student from Columbia's law school. Columbia's also embroiled in a debate about what students can and cannot say and what repercussions they may face if they do speak out. Also going to talk to a former advisor to Barack Obama who has intimate knowledge about how the White House operates when there is such a clash, and there's potential for a very long and painful war like we're witnessing in Israel, and also an expert on free speech. Talk about what these universities are doing right and what they are doing wrong to protect students who are exercising their rights to really the First Amendment, freedom of speech rights. That's in hour two, so make sure you stick around. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I don't know if you saw this story, but there's a story out about a university study that was done at Boston University. And the study was about Black women's health. And in this study, and this is a study that's been going on for several decades now, this university professor and her scientists, her researchers, they looked at the health of 59,000 Black women. And they found that postmenopausal Black women who use chemical hair straighteners. Now, depending on how old you are probably someone that either used a chemical hair straightener that we called a perm or permanent, or someone in your family did. They now are telling us that the use of that hair straightener creates a high risk of developing uterine cancer. Yes, uterine cancer. I'm thinking about every Black woman that I grew up with, every Black woman in my community, and how many Black hair care companies, have sold and continue to sell these permanent hair straighteners, and how many Black women have used them continuously, as we have been trying to straighten our hair for various reasons, some to live up to Eurocentric standards of beauties, others just because they want straighter hair. No matter what the reason, the fact that in 2023, we are now learning that this product or these products have ingredients that can cause uterine cancer. The study also talks about some of the products or the ingredients in these straightening products can also cause fertility issues and just other long-term health issues for Black women. Now, some women have actually sued Revlon and L'Oreal and some other cosmetic brands, alleging that their company's hair straightening products cause them to develop uterine cancer, breast cancer, and other health complications, including infertility. The FDA finally is proposing a ban, but they're doing it months after some Black women in Congress, primarily Shontel Brown of Ohio and Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, wrote an open letter in March to the FDA asking it to conduct an investigation to determine if this study from Boston University is valid. And obviously, if it is, then to propose bans on some of these chemical ingredients found in these hair straighteners. I'm just really upset about this. Upset because I cannot imagine that the FDA would not have been able to determine that these chemicals were harmful to Black women, that it didn't take a private university like Boston University to, make this revelation, and that here we are in 2023 after decades and decades and decades of Black women straightening their hair, now learning that the products in these hair straightening chemicals can be the cause of very, very, very serious illnesses, including uterine and breast cancer. Black women, we struggle so much with our hair, so many issues from, needing a whole piece of legislation called the Crown Act to prevent people from discriminating against us because of our hair. And now, in efforts to straighten our hair, learning that those processes and those chemicals that are used or have been used in hair salons all over this country are a leading contributor to breast and uterine cancer. Really, really disturbing. And all I can say is, FDA, please, please, please do better. Black women, we deserve better. We deserve to have a government that is engaged in finding protections and ensuring that things that can cause us harm like cancer aren't put out into the marketplace and aren't consumed by Black women. And watch this story very carefully, see what happens with this lawsuit that some Black women have filed, see if there actually, becomes a ban from the FDA on these products. But if you are someone or someone that is using any kind of chemical to straighten her hair, please, please, please share with them that these chemicals are very, very, very dangerous and they should cease using them immediately. And please share this with all of your hairstylist friends and others who might be buying and using these products. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
We boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union, weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580, weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern, A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today.
We're tracking today's trending and breaking news with Dr. Larry Walker and Amanda Edwards, who is an attorney and candidate for Congress. So much news today, Dr. Walker and Amanda. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, what's happening in Israel is, really captivating the news, has been captivating the news for the last week. We know Joe Biden is headed to Israel tomorrow. Chuck Schumer has been there for several days. What are you making, Professor Walker, of what we are seeing? Because, this is so confusing. The story today about the 500 plus people killed at the hospital. The Israelis are blaming the Palestinians. The Palestinians are saying, no, this was an attack, an air attack by the Israelis. It's really, really hard to know what is happening. But yet we're getting all of these conflicting stories about who's responsible for the loss of so many lives.
Yeah, Areva. So, this is a very complex issue. And the challenge with social media is you have a lot of social media pundits who have no idea what they're talking about. I worked on a lot of issues relating to Israel when I worked on Capitol Hill. And it, even at that time, I realized that it's a very, complex issue. So, so we go back to the war in 1967. We can obviously talk about the challenges that happened in the Holocaust during World War II. But as we all know, if you read anything about the Bible, these issues go back farther than that in terms of that region and being disputed. So I say all that to say that for those who are listening, there are really not that many experts you should be listening to who are credible on this topic. That's first. Secondly, I think, Reva, this is a very serious challenge for President Biden. Now, look, does he have the experience? Not only as president and vice president, but I will remind people he served many, many decades in the U.S. Senate, including serving as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. So he has plenty of foreign affairs experience in terms of tackling this issue. But the thing about it is, the challenge is, once again, the historical context. When you have challenges like this that are rooted in so much history, there are not overnight solutions. It really is, first of all, be rebuilding trust after whenever the what's happening in Israel ceases or at least calms down. It's going to be hard once again to build trust between Israelis and Palestinians. But overall, for those in the Black community who've been paying attention, I will once again say to you, be careful of misinformation and understand that these are the times when you need to pick up text books that talk about the historical nature of the conflict before you comment on it. And if you don't know anything about it, keep silent.
So funny. I'm laughing because I literally just gave a student that advice this morning. I said, this is so complex and people are reading the headlines and they're jumping to conclusions and they're issuing statements. And most people have not read, as you just said, the history and know the nuances and the complexities of it. And every single day, there are new reports out. Amanda, what do you make of, like I said, what I think is kind of a shift that's occurring, even from members of Congress and the president? When the attack first happened, there was outrage, unequivocal support for Israel. And then the civilian casualties, we started to see the innocent Palestinians who were being bombed and, people leaving their homes, fleeing their homes. We saw the Red Cross calling for Israel to create a humanitarian corridor to let them in, to bring food and water and electricity. So do you sense that this could shift, that the support for Israel from the U.S. government could shift if we continue to see the level of casualties that we're seeing?
Thanks for the question, Areva. I think this, as was highlighted, is a very complex, long-standing relationship and issue that's happening and unveiling itself. I think one thing that is clear, regardless of however you turn out on the issue, is that this is a humanitarian crisis. There have been over 1,000 lives lost, thousands of injuries. And I'm very glad that President Biden is en route heading to Israel as we speak, because I do think, as was stated, the details and of what's happening when certainly there can be misreports, there can be all kinds of different perspectives, and it can become very confusing for people who are seeking to just find information. And so with President Biden's presence, I think that will be very good in terms of trying to help the American people really dissect their perspective on what's happening, but then also for us to focus on how to address this humanitarian crisis that stands before us. Again, children are suffering, people are suffering. We do not stand for terrorism in any way in the United States, and obviously have a longstanding, strong relationship with Israel. And we want to make sure that when we come in as the United States, that we're actively engaged in a way that is appropriate, but also informed. And so with our president there, I think that will be extremely helpful. But sadly enough, we're at a state in our own politics locally in the United States, domestically, where U.S. Congress could not even act if it wanted, because we still have yet to select a Speaker of the House of Representatives. And that is a challenge that I think we face when we are in our own dysfunction, not being able to be responsive in the ways that we otherwise might, because we're not even able to act legislatively at this point in time due to the dysfunction occurring in U.S. Congress.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We're going to talk later in the show about the failed vote for Jim Jordan to become the next Speaker of the House. Not shocking, not surprising to anyone, and not likely that he will get the 217 votes that he needs. But I do want to ask you something, Dr. Walker. So Amanda says it's a good thing that Biden is going to Israel, but how risky is this, both from a political standpoint and just a personal safety standpoint? We have not had a president go into an active war zone like this war zone ever in the history of this country. And I'm just wondering what you're thinking about the wisdom of Biden actually traveling to Israel.
Yeah, so I think that he has to walk a very careful line. And even I highlighted the president's, decades-long experience in working on foreign affairs issues. So it is risky because it's like the speaker's, race. You don't know how this is going to turn. Obviously, within the last 2 hours, we found out about this bombing. It's killed, based on reports, several hundred men, women, and children. And so you're dealing with an area that's unstable as the air region is right now. Then there are sometimes likely things that happen by the time he lands and, stands next to the prime minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and, whatever speech he gives, you don't know how much, things could change and public opinion could change. So I think that.
Yeah. What happens, Dr. Walker, if there is an invasion of the Gaza Strip while President Biden is there and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians that are killed? Is that going to be a good look for the president to be in Israel, standing next to, the prime minister while that prime minister is carrying out that kind of attack?
It's a fine walk, but I would think that wouldn't happen. I think the one thing, the point we have to highlight is that the United States gives about $3.9 billion to Israel each year. There are, our closest ally in the Middle East. And, you're going to have White House staff communicating with the prime minister's staff in terms of the overall look, right? So there's certain things you can't control if certain skirmishes break out. But overall, in terms of what you describe as a land offensive, why President Biden is there, I'm quite sure there are conversations between the White House and the prime minister's people in terms of what they would expect and what they would not expect over the next 24 to 36 hours.
And Amanda, what about Netanyahu? He's in many ways a Donald Trump type, leader, a strong man, ultra conservative, supported Donald Trump in 2016. Does that complicate the politics of that ruler? How does that complicate this crisis for particularly a Democratic president like Joe Biden?
Yeah, I definitely see the way in which that can be complicated. And I think for us as the United States, as was stated, Israel has been a longstanding ally in the Middle East with the United States. And I think that's something that stands the test of time and has stood this test of time, even through different leaders, whether some have been stronger than others. And I think that what we have to think about, too, is what's overall good in terms of the outcomes, as opposed to necessarily do we agree with every single move or a move that one particular individual takes. Now, of course, when you're at the helm, like as we've experienced,
let me stop you for a minute, Amanda. So if we are criticizing Donald Trump, and the politics of Donald Trump, and Netanyahu is mirroring the politics of Donald Trump, how can we as a country maintain credibility if we find fault and are critical of one style of government, i.e. Donald Trump's, but not the prime minister's? Is that hypocrisy on the part of Americans?
I think the alignment with the country is sometimes you're going to not necessarily agree with every move that particular leader makes. And I don't think it means that he is above reproach from critique as a leader. It just is that we do understand that there is there is an overarching relationship between these two nations that is also something to hold in regard when we're thinking about the complicated nature of the relationship with the United States, as well as what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, hold that thought, because I do want to explore that greater. I understand, yes, we can't control every decision made by another, prime minister or president, but if we are giving a country our, undivided or if we are clearly supportive of a country providing $3.X billion a year, and they are engaged in what's called, if they are not allowing food and water and creating this humanitarian crisis, is there a point at which we should be withholding some of our support and our money? We'll talk about that when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Cortez, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union, weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580, weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today's divisions, to make sense out of news of the day, and offer us all a chance to build a more perfect union. Come on and join me.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co.
We are back, and in this hour, we are talking with Dr. Larry Walker and Amanda Edwards, an attorney and candidate for Congress in the 18th Congressional District of Texas. And in hour two, we're going to be talking to a Columbia law student, as well as some experts on what's happening to college campuses, particularly students who have spoken out after the Hamas attack on Israel. We've seen job offers withdrawn from law students. We've seen big corporate executives on Wall Street asking for the names and identities of students that have signed on to pro-Palestinian letters, suggesting that those individuals should be forever banned from working in certain industries. Question I'm asking is, where are the adults? And why aren't these universities doing more to protect these students? So make sure you stick around for hour two. Dr. Walker, I do want to kind of wrap up, this conflict that's happening in Israel. Long, sordid history. Obviously, not likely that the planned attack by Israel on Hamas, on the Palestinians, is going to end this crisis. When I hear the Israeli government officials talk about annihilating Hamas, or, I think they are really off the mark. Hamas and the terrorists aren't just people, it's an ideology. And as we are speaking, they are grooming the next generation. And that has been the reality here, is no matter what level of attack is launched by Israel on these terrorists, they just keep rising up and rising up. When do you think Israel and other nations like the U.S., the staunch ally of Israel, starts to say, maybe we should do something different in this moment, because all we keep getting are dead bodies on both sides? I mean, there are so many lives. I've been reading just horrific stories of Israelis who've lost family members and Palestinians. And the annihilation of Hamas does not seem to be at all possible.
Yeah, so as we kind of discussing this issue, and like I said, it is complex, and I think that the United States, as this plays out, will play a very prominent role in trying to, when it comes to maybe some possible ceasefire, right? With this, you can't, this kind of conflict can't continue because within you have the war. There are other entities that could become involved in the conflict, and Iran, among others. And, you certainly no one wants to see what's happening currently in the Middle East. You don't want it to continue to expand. Hezbollah and various other entities get involved, because then it will become a serious issue for the region, and no one wants to see that. But it's going to take some time before, I think, in my opinion, we reach that point. I hope that the president, as he visits the country tomorrow, offers, consistently his foreign relations experience, as I noted, a very calm hand and firm hand in terms of understanding that we need to figure out how to resolve the current conflict, because, as I said, they could become inflamed, and it could engulf the entire region in a long-standing fight that certainly no one wants.
Yeah, this is a test for Joe Biden and his administration, and there are no easy solutions to this by no means. But definitely, I think, the American people, we don't have the stomach to watch little kids mangled and, to see them left on the side of the road disfigured. And I do believe there's going to be a point at which the American people will demand that our government demand more from its ally, even its staunchest ally like Israel. So I think we just have to watch to see that the public sentiment could change very quickly in this situation, depending on how much carnage, we witness on our televisions day in and day out. I do want to switch gears and talk about this House vote. Amanda, you mentioned the chaos with the Republican Party. Reports are now that Jim Jordan is working the phones, trying to get those Republicans to vote for him. There's a group of New York congressmen who've said, hell no. Jim Jordan would not vote for aid for victims of 9/11. He would not vote for aid for individuals who lost everything in one of the big hurricanes in New Jersey. And they have no faith in his anything that he says. They think he's a liar, and they believe that if he is given the position of speakership, he is going to ask for sweeping cuts to the military and all kinds of other programs, the border control and things that these Republicans care about. Do you see, is there anything Jim Jordan can say to that group of New York mod Republicans who are saying over our dead body at this point?
I think the selection of Jim Jordan as the Speaker of the House would be catastrophic. And I think it would represent the truest form of dysfunction for our American government. You're sending someone in whose intent it is not to govern, but simply to push down the throats of his colleagues, his opinions and his views, which happen to be far more extreme than everyone else's. I mean, after all, he's the founder of the House Freedom Caucus. And so we don't need to send into leadership and reward bad behavior. And selecting him as the Speaker of the House, the third most prominent role in Washington, would absolutely be a huge mistake for not just how the U.S. government functions, but also for the American people. We are in a dangerous state in our politics right now, where politics and just this quest for power has become so extreme, whereby we are willing to trade the interests of the American people, and in each and every single time we're willing to do a government shutdown and stop the critical systems that help and safety nets that help to protect people from being on the fringes. And I think that would be a huge mistake to select someone like Jim Jordan, and I do not believe he should ever become the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
So, Professor, if it's not Jim Jordan, it's not Steve Scalise, it's not Kevin McCarthy, then who?
I mean, I think the current Speaker pro tem. Look, you're hearing rumors already, and Minority Leader Jeffries has already, kind of alluded to this. You're going to have to. I think ultimately, it's going to have to be some kind of coalition. And listen, I'm a former congressional staffer and sat in a lot of contentious meetings with Democrats and Republicans, and it's gotten worse since I left the Hill, without a doubt. But the bottom line is there's some critical deadlines coming up here, including the CR, which expires in mid-November. Now, we have the conflict in Israel. Some people want border security funding, and among other issues.
Let's not forget Ukraine. Still got
I was going to add.
Raging.
Right. So there's a lot of work to be done. And, I concur with my colleague. Listen, he's not qualified. We already know the allegations of him when he was Ohio State wrestling coach in terms of some of those, some of his athletes.
But none of that matters. He fell short 18 votes. So that means like 199 people have voted for him, including some moderate Republicans, Professor Walker. So we know he's not qualified. They know he's not qualified, but yet 199 of them voted for him.
Yeah, but Areva, this is the period we live in our democracy. You saw many of some of those Republicans last 48 hours and said they wouldn't vote for him. They flipped their vote. But we noticed some of the other news outlets, more conservative news outlets, have applied political pressure. But to be honest with you, there are quite a few Republicans that live in districts that were voted but are Biden. That Biden won. They're in a no-win situation. And they're likely, whatever the outcome is, to lose their congressional seats, because the problem with the Republicans is that there's no plan. They can't seem to figure out whoever's running their whip operation. And for those who were listening, the whip is responsible for counting votes for various legislation on the floor. Whoever's running their whip operation has no idea what they're doing, because the numbers based on who will vote for what over the last, even going back, a week and a half ago to McCarthy, people don't seem to have an idea about.
Well, you're assuming they have a whip operation, Professor Walker. You're giving him a lot of credit. They haven't been in control. They haven't governed in so long. I don't even know if they have a whip operation, or definitely they're not following the Nancy Pelosi, playbook of you don't bring anything up on the floor to vote unless you have the votes. Clearly, they think that they're going to embarrass members. That's what Jim Jordan thought. He was going to embarrass those members that voted against him. He was going to strong arm them. They had this whole pressure campaign. But let's talk about, if not, you haven't answered, and I still want to get an answer to that question. If not Jim Jordan, then who? They've already gone. They've gone through three of these guys. And they haven't come up. Okay, yeah. It will be McHenry. When we come forward and talk about that, because McHenry has his own issues, and not sure if he would be able to garner 217 votes either. And also Mississippi Black voters now have more power than they have had ever. What are they likely to do with it when we come forward? KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station. KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, Dr. Walker, you are predicting that the current temporary Speaker of the House somehow emerges tomorrow as the permanent Speaker, and it will have something to do with the deal cut with our Democratic Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, because Jim Jordan said he was not going to win his 217 votes by looking to Democrats. He said that's not what the American people want. The American people, in his mind, does not want the Republicans working with the Democrats. Now, I don't know what American people he's talking about, but he made that statement on national TV. So tell us how this deal is going down with Hakeem Jeffries, the Dem minority leader, and this temporary speaker.
Yeah, Jeffries has already floated this, in the last couple of hours, some kind of coalition building. I think he's waiting for this to continue to implode. People get desperate because you have to have a speaker. I think if the conflict in Ukraine and what's happening in Israel right now wasn't happening, you might find the Republicans continue to kind of lounge around on this issue. But the pressure is on because of the international challenges. Let me add another caveat. If something happens here domestically, that's going to push them even further. So I think the pressure from that, you're going to find some moderate Republicans and Jeffries working out a deal with some, with Democrats to, like I said, make someone like McHenry, who's the Speaker pro tem, the actual speaker, because the bottom line is they have to do something and people are going to start getting desperate.
But based on the rules, how would McHenry even, his name be advanced? Like, wouldn't that have to happen in a Republican caucus? Or they could just all write him in?
So someone, in terms of putting forward, like you saw in the vote today, Jim Jordan and Jeffries' name were both put forward, right? So
right.
The Democrats, the minority, still has the right to have someone. I don't think the rules preclude from you having multiple. We've seen this in multiple rounds of a speaker. It wouldn't preclude them from putting his name forward. It was just a matter of the building. How do you build that coalition, and what's the deal look like?
So if he could keep the Dems together, which we know he's capable of doing, get all of them, and then get what we need, 10, 12 Republicans?
Maybe just a few. I mean, Jeffries' rights are strike. Their whip operation is much stronger than the Republicans.
We have a whip operation.
You might have to push. You're definitely going to have to nudge some folks. But the bottom line is, as days go on, this situation in Israel is going to, like I said, it could become more volatile. You got to do something.
And what are you thinking, Amanda, about this McHenry pro tem? What do you know about him? Is he a better candidate? Pretty much anyone is better than Jim Jordan, but how do you compare him to Steve Scalise or Kevin McCarthy?
Areva, you took the words right out of my mouth about the comparison to Jim Jordan. I don't think it can be a worse choice there. I think, and as it relates here, certainly it would be a better choice. Is it ideal? No, but we're not living in ideal times. What we're living in is dangerous times where we don't have a functional House of Representatives because we don't have a speaker. And it's, time is of the essence. It's dangerous for the United States we are literally sitting here in a position where every single country on this planet knows that we cannot act. We cannot take core actions for this country and legislate because of the fact that we're in this dysfunction in the House of Representatives. So we have to get this remedied right away. And I know that's against the current spirit of our politics, which is not to govern, not to compromise, all of the things, but that is what is at the root of being able to govern. You've got to make a selection, and it's not going to be the most extreme person like Jim Jordan, but we've got to move forward. And so it sounds like there might be a possibility to get some consensus around him, this candidate. So that might be a possibility, but it's been 2 weeks. I mean, it's literally been 2 weeks, and we've been really sitting here in a very vulnerable state as a nation. This is very dangerous.
So if you are right, Professor Walker, and Hakeem Jeffries is, whipping up his Democratic votes, because it would take a lot to get folks like AOC and some of those other progressives in the Democratic Party, to vote for a McHenry type. And even on the Republicans, that would drive the Freedom Caucus members bonkers if there is a bipartisan selection of the speaker. Can you imagine what the Matt Gaetz of the world would do if, Hakeem Jeffries outsmarts them and Trump's guy, Jordan, is thrown out, and this McHenry guy or someone like him is selected? That would be just total chaos for the Republican Party.
Well, listen, the Freedom Caucus just wants to burn it all down. But the reality, and they want to burn it all down and then go on TV. And that's the problem now, that, for a lot of members who've been elected the last term, they're not really interested in the work. What they were interested in is a platform. And I think that's reflective of today's society. But the reality, listen, also, let me add, I work for my former boss member was from New York City. And Jeffries has, I think the former district that Ed Towns had, it was old school political, like my boss. And, when you come out of New York City politics, you know how to fight, and you also know how to make deals because you have to. And Jeffries has served as, former Speaker Pelosi's, essentially lieutenant and, rising star for years. And he's finally here and, eventually will be Speaker of the House. But he knows how to, he's being patient, smart, and he knows how to work out deals.
Well, he has those New Yorkers who are already just pissed with Jim Jordan. So he has some colleagues in his state that he can work with. Real quickly, let's talk about Mississippi. Mississippi has more Black voters than any other state in the nation. 2 oppressive voting laws have just been overturned in the state that now will make it possible for Black voters in Mississippi to flex their political power. What are they going to do with it, Amanda? Got a governor's race coming up in this November, next month. What do you predict? Particularly after what happened in Louisiana over the weekend, which is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think that this is a very timely change in the law by restoring the rights of the voting rights, and then obviously overturning the system to electing statewide candidates. I think it now expands the opportunities available for Mississippi Black voters. They've got to be, I think, made aware of this, but this could be galvanizing. I think it can have the potential to be galvanizing. We're in a space and time where we've had a number of setbacks. I mean, you know what happened in terms of when the courts ruled in Alabama, and they turned and in turn said, we don't have to follow the law. We can do what we want. We don't want to see Mississippi kind of sit on the sidelines. We want the Black voters to mobilize and be engaged and now exercise the restored rights that should have been exercised all along, but be able to also work within a system that works for them.
What are you predicting, Professor Walker? We got shellacking in Louisiana. The Dem candidate for governor came in at 25%. The Republican attorney general just, walked away with 52% of that vote. And a lot of it was low voter turnout in big metropolitan areas like New Orleans. So having the right to vote and then using that right are two different things. What are you predicting will happen in Mississippi?
First, let me say, I created a term, Black political exhaustion. And I think that for decades of Jim Crow and post-2013 Supreme Court Shelby versus Holder efforts to diminish the Black vote. So I think Reeves is going to win next month. But I think that what you highlighted, the two issues that you just highlighted in terms of franchising, making sure Black voters who are formerly incarcerated be able to vote, I think that 2 to 4 years down the line is where you're more likely to see a difference instead of seeing that immediately, because I think that you really need to build the Democratic Party really has to invest, which it hasn't done in Mississippi.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We've had Black candidates running in the state, but the larger Democratic Party has not invested the kind of resources to allow those individuals, those candidates to be successful. Hopefully now, with some changes in the law, that we will see that kind of investment, because we can't give up the South. I mean, we cannot give up the South. I was just heartbroken over what happened in Louisiana. Not only is the new governor a Republican, but he is a far-right extremist Donald Trump type Republican. And we know what that looks like in the state of Florida. We know what that looks like in the state of Texas. And to have that kind of governor in the state of Louisiana is really heartbreaking. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Professor Walker. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thank you, Amanda Edwards. Good luck on your race for Congress in the 18th Congressional District of Texas. We need, obviously, more women of color, more progressive women of color in our Congress, because we do have a lot of challenges to face as a country. Thanks again for both of you lending your brilliance to these really very, very difficult issues. When we come forward in hour 2, we're going to be talking to a Columbia law student about his experience once he spoke out about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and then talking to some experts about what these universities and colleges should be doing in this moment as students are exercising their First Amendment rights to speak out about the crisis. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way Black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.